What drives you, exile? Is it justice? Revenge? Honor? No. It is power. We felt your deeds. Felt their shockwaves ripple through the void. You have our attention. Now you must keep it. Your limits will be tested. The stars themselves will bear silent witness. How far will you bend before you break? Drives you, exile? Is it justice? Revenge? Honor? No. It is power. You have our attention. Now you must keep it. Your limits will be tested. The stars themselves will bear silent witness. How far will you bend before you break?
Hey guys, Dante here, back with another little video. And in this one I want to talk about the build that I am currently playing in 3.15, and that is a custom Crit Bow Deadeye. Now, this build is a bit more complex than just your average normal build, like right-click build. So I'm gonna take you step by step through everything and tell you how it works, what you need to craft, and how to craft that so you can get it on the cheaper side, and probably it's listed up for sale on the trade site. And yeah, all the good stuff. So grab your popcorn, grab your drink, because this is gonna be a long one. Okay, so let's start with the basics. First of all, disclaimer, this is not a complete build. I'm still trying to figure out some things that I'm not happy with. I'm trying to min-max a little bit so it can get even better. Okay, so this is just a work in progress video, not a complete build guide, but well, it is kind of a build guide, but not so as a build guide to show you like complete one-tapping boss mechanics and stuff like that. Okay, this is what I learned from making the build, the struggles and the obstacles that I faced, and I'm gonna try and help you guys replicate less of those. Okay, so straight into the build. So we're playing a Deadeye, and that is because we have these Ascendancies. We have +1 chain and skills fire 2 additional arrows. The skills fire 2 additional projectiles, I mean, which is big, right? It applies to our Ice Spear and stuff like that. We'll get into that later. We're gonna get free Tailwind and Gale Force, and we're gonna get Focal Point, which is like a huge single target DPS boost. 75% increased effect of your marks, 25% less damage taken from enemies near your mark. So you see how it can be really good. Okay, so that's the Ascendancy. Let's get into the skills itself. And we're gonna start with our cast on crit setup, which we have right here. Let me just take those out. So we're gonna be using a Shaper Bow with socketed gems are supported by level 20 cast on crit. 18 is fine, it's not like a huge DPS gain or loss if you get a level 18 cast on crit, right? It's gonna be like 0.6% or 1% less damage if you get a 18, so it's not such a big deal, okay? With damage penetrates, elemental resistance, and +1 socketed gems. Now, there are some bows on the market that instead of +1 socketed bows have essence crafted spell damage. This is about the same. +1 socketed gems and the essence craft are, you know, more or less the same. It doesn't really matter. You can choose to craft it this way or with the essence. As for the suffixes, I have attack speed and double damage, and crit chance quality, which is not the maximum tier. This is why I say that this is work in progress. It's not a full completed build. Okay, so how do you get this bow? You get this bow in multiple ways. First of all, you want some good to start off with some good prefixes. So let's say you chaos spam or fossil craft or even alteration craft until you have one of these three prefixes, and you need to make sure that you have 2 open prefixes. So let's say you hit the cast on crit and you got 2 open prefixes. Great. Then you proceed to craft cannot roll attack modifiers, which basically locks all the mods that can roll on the bow and the prefix except +1 damage penetrates, fizz is extra cold, and I think frenzy or something like that, which it doesn't really matter. And then you just what is it? And then you just take one and exalt and slam it on the bow, and it will give you one of those available prefixes. That's how I crafted mine. I basically got T1 CoC, double slammed it, I got the pen, I got the +1, and I was happy. Then I crafted prefixes cannot be changed. I did the reforged speed more likely, which gave me the attack speed double damage, and then I crafted the crit. Now there's another step that you can go to take this further, which I probably will, and then is the prefixes cannot be changed, and then you Ashling craft it, or Airsling craft it, or whatever how you want to say it, and you hope to remove the prefixes cannot be changed and keep the double damage and get good suffix instead of that one. So that's for another time, okay? Now, the other way you can craft this bow is simply by getting a Shaper base with cast on crit. I mean, a Shaper base with attack speed double damage, T1, and the Warlord or Hunter, Warlord or Elder bow, which has a bow attacks for additional projectile or something like that. And then you Woke Orb them, and you hope to get some open prefixes. So and then you do just like that. You craft suffixes cannot roll attack modifiers, and you slam and hope you hit 3 instead of the 2 mods. Okay, so that's the way that I used in the past, and this is how I got this current bow. Okay, So for our cast on crit setup, we're using two skills. We got the cast on crit on the bow, and then we're using Divergent Eye Spear for single target, Eye of Winter, GMP, Divergent Tornado Shot, because it gives increased attack speed, Divergent Eye Spear because it grants percent cold damage. We are using Divergent Inspiration, which supported skills have 10% reduced mana cost, which helps us sustain mana. Because you know in 3.15 we took a massive hit to mana sustain, and basically mana reservation. And then Hypothermia. I do intend to swap this for a woke added cold, awakened added cold damage something. So that's gonna be the upgrades for the bow, which are gonna follow in the days to come. So that's our setup, and that's how cast on crit works. You basically attack with tornado shot, and then when you crit, you trigger these in succession. Basically, you're gonna trigger Eye Spear, Eye of Winter, Eye Spear, Eye of Winter, Eye Spear, Eye of Winter, Eye Spear, Eye of Winter. For single target, you could remove Eye of Winter and then add another support gem in there for like more damage. Okay, good. Let's go with the helmet. So for the helmet, we are using Ascendancy Chant, and the main thing you want in Ascendancy Chant is trigger a socketed spell when you attack with a bow with a 0.3 second cooldown. And basically, you see here how we attacked and it just popped Hydrosphere, because in our helmet we have Hydrosphere, Bone Chill, Sniper's Mark, and Power Charge on crit. Basically, whenever we fire and we proc Hydrosphere, Hydrosphere is gonna give us power charges and debuff the enemy, so they take more damage. Okay, right. So moving forward, so that's how we get our Hydrosphere and power charges, and we basically debuff the enemy even more. Moving on to the Quiver. So for the Quiver, you have a few options. You got this Maloney's Mechanism, which basically has 3 sockets, and again it triggers socketed bow skills when you attack with a bow with a 1 second cooldown. So this, whenever we attack, you see those little green projectiles, those are Frenzy from Anomalous Frenzy. Why Anomalous? Because it fires an additional projectile, which means it's easier to hit and debuff the enemies. Now, all of these require mana, and I'll show you how to cope with the mana as we get into the PoB. So in the Quiver, we are running Elemental Weakness, Anomalous Frenzy, and Hex Touch. So basically, whenever Frenzy hits something, it's gonna chain, it's gonna debuff the enemy with Elemental Weakness. Okay, so there is another bow which is not Maloney's, which is more expensive. Basically, Maloney is the budget version because it gives you like life, blind, attack speed, and the trigger, which is very good. You can craft a rare Quiver with a lot of life, a lot of attack speed, global crit multi. I think there is a global crit multi, maybe. So global crit multi, attack speed, bow fires, additional projectile, and some resist and whatever. But that is very expensive and difficult to craft these days. And I just recommend you go with the Maloney's. And yeah, and you may be like, okay, well, I want to go with the rare Quiver. So how do I get frenzies then? There is a suffix craft, bench craft for Quivers. I think is frenzy. Yeah, so it's a suffix bench craft. 3% chance to gain a frenzy on critical strike. We always crit, so we always get frenzies. That's how you circumvent this. But then you're gonna have to find another way to apply your curse. It could be on a ring, it could be on another hex touch, on another item. Okay, moving forward in the boots. Now, these boots are very expensive to make and you do not need them. Okay, this is like a niche item that I wanted to work on for multiple days, and I achieved it kinda. You can see like tier 7 life regen is not what I wanted, but it's there and it's gonna stay there because I don't want to know. So, what you want from these boots is normally just elusive. That's it. You don't need a elevated onslaught or whatever. Okay, now the thing that I want to go take with this build, I want to get it element immune, right? Because of the change in 3.15 to element immunity and stuff like that to Flask, I want to get this build ailment immune. That's one of my goals for this build. And how do I plan to do that? Well, I got 25% chance to avoid elemental elements from the Shaper, and I woke the orbit with elevated onslaught so I can get the attack cast and movement speed while you have onslaught. And then I did suffixes cannot be changed, reforged crit. I did another suffixes cannot be changed, and I asling it to remove the suffix cannot be changed and add the movement speed. That's how you craft these boots. It's a very expensive and painful process because if you fuck up once, you have to go again, right? It's very stressful. I do not recommend trying to craft these. These are very expensive, but if you do, you want to learn and have the income, by all means, it's gonna cost you way less to make these than to buy them, because these are worth like 30, 35, maybe 40x, and to craft them is like 10, 15. Okay, so that's how you craft these boots. Now for the belt, we are using Torrent's Reclamation, in which you see this little blue guy over here, which gives us Torrent's Reclamation. Now what this belt gives is some Greater Harbinger of Time. Now what does the Harbinger of Time do? Summons an immortal Harbinger minion. The minion will occasionally create an aura on you to increase your action speed of you and your allies. Basically gives you movement speed, attack speed, stuff like that, right? It gives you quality of life. And it also has increased cooldown recovery rate. Now I said this in all my cast on crit builds. For any point in cast on crit, you need a minimum of 14% cooldown recovery rate. Regardless, if you want to play the build properly and make it feel good, you need minimum 14% cooldown recovery rate. It doesn't matter if it's wall CoC, it doesn't matter if it's on the belt boost or whatever, you need 14% cooldown recovery rate. So basically this belt takes attack speed, cooldown recovery rate, and like the rest is like whatever. Again, this is, you can say this is the budget version, even though it's, I think, what, it's 6x. You could say it's the budget version, because if you want to use a shaper belt with cooldown recovery rate, you can do that, but then all the good mods for this kind of build are on a Redeemer belt, so you're gonna probably have to awaken orb, Redeemer, and shaper belt, and then get those good mods like cooldown recovery rate, damage against shield enemies, cold damage to spell, elemental damage, spell damage, and stuff like that. It's very difficult and painful to craft. If you do want to craft that, that's how you do it. You awoke orb, a shaper mod in a Redeemer mod, and then you progress towards that and hope to get something good. But for the budget version, you get Torrent's Reclamation. Shame it doesn't have life to give us a little more tankiness, but maybe when I make a follow-up video to this build, maybe I'll have a rare crafted belt, which is like GG. But until then, this will do. For the gloves, we are using a temple glove with cold resist and, the most important, increased damage with hits against shield enemies. And that is the main thing that you want, right? You want the increased damage with hits against shield enemies. And then you want to look for big life, some resistances that you're lacking. And once that is done, you can basically slam it with a Redeemer orb or Warlord orb. I chose Warlord orb in hopes to get elemental damage, but I got projectile attack damage, which is kind of like whatever. But if you do slam Warlord, you can get elemental damage and all that good stuff. Okay, cool. So for the rings, we are using a Redeemer ring with Frostbite on hit, and non-channeling skills minus mana cost. And the mods you want in the prefixes are chance to freeze, cold damage against shield of frozen enemies, life, and an open prefix, so you can craft minus mana cost. Then on the other ring, I have a shaper ring with, again, chance to freeze, cold damage against shield of frozen enemies, crafted life, and the resistances that I'm missing. Ideally here you would have another mod from the shaper. It's cold damage, adds cold damage to spells and attacks or something like that. If you have those two prefixes and life, then you got a GG ring. Okay, and for the chest piece, it is a very simple, easy to craft chest, and I'm gonna tell you how to do it. Basically, you want a assassin's garb, hunter influence, and then you use pristine fossils. Do I have any? Let me see. Yeah, you use pristine fossils and a normal whatever this thing is, I forgot the name, resonator, until you are happy with the prefixes that you got. Okay, so you want life and you want the additional curse, right? There's no way you can target additional curse. You just have to spam it, the life fossil, the pristine fossils, until you get good life and the additional curse. After that, you do prefixes cannot be changed, reforge attack, and then you get attack 2 critical strike chance, and then you do whatever you want for the other suffixes. Okay, so that's the gear. The flask, I am using a corrupted blood life flask. I am using an immunity to chill because I am not element immune just yet. And I'm using Cinder Swallow with increased critical strike chance. I am using a Bottle of Faith. This is not necessary. You can replace it with a diamond flask, so you don't really need the Bottle of Faith since it's been nerfed to the ground, but it's still pretty good. And a Dying Sun. Now, the very important thing about cast on crit is like 3 things. 1, you need 14% cooldown recovery rate. 2, you need 100% or like at least 99% hit chance and 100% crit chance. You need to have these three things to make the build actually feel good and playable. Because if you don't have accuracy, you're missing. If you're missing, you don't hit, you don't crit, and you don't do damage. You need crit, because even if you hit and you don't crit, you're not gonna proc Ice Spear, you're not gonna proc Eye of Winter, you're not gonna do damage. You see how all of these things fit together? It's basically like it's like a watch, right? All the pieces have to be working in tandem in order for the build to actually feel good. So try to get that. You need 40% cooldown recovery rate, get a lot of accuracy, get that hit cap, and get that crit cap, okay? Okay, so let's talk about the jewels a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about the jewels, right? What do you want on jewels? First of all, you want a large cluster jewel with the most important mod on this being Blanketed Snow. Now the rest are just a filler. You really want Blanketed Snow and something else, just like I have here. Prismatic Heart, which I'm not using, just I need Blanketed Snow to get the Cold Pen, right? So you want Blanketed Snow, and the other good mods, which are Disorientating Display, Prismatic Heart, and Doriani's Lesson or stuff like that, which is gonna help you to fill in whatever you're missing. For the mediums, you want as much crit as possible, so I'm using Pressure Points, Quick Getaway, which is crit chance, movement speed, and Pressure Points is crit chance, and your crits have chance to deal double damage. And then again, same here, Basics of Pain for crit chance and Quick Getaway. Quick Getaway, Pressure Points, and then for the last one, I am using a Master of Fear, Wish for Death. This is an expensive jewel. It's not that easy to craft. I spent like maybe 100 or 200 chaos trying to make one, and then I just bought it. Basically what Wish for Death gives you, you have Culling Strike against cursed enemies. You always curse because you have Curse on hit, which means you always have Culling Strike, and Master of Fear. Your enemies you curse are unnerved, which is basically a free unnerve. And to help you survive some degen, some damage, and basically recoup your life quickly, I am using a small Feast of Flesh cluster jewel. Feast of Flesh basically is 8% mana, attack damage reaches life, and you get 10 mana gain for each enemy hit by your attacks. We're using Tornado Shot. Tornado Shot hits a lot of enemies. Let's say it hits 10 enemies. You immediately get 100 life, right? Per attack, so it is great sustain. In mapping, you're gonna want this, unless you have money and you buy Watcher's Eye with vitality, and then you get like life gain by your attacks, whatever like this is, but that's very expensive. For the normal jewels, you want attack speed, crit multi, and life, basically, right? Crit multi, life, res. I don't have life. Okay. What other things you could get on the jewel to make your life more easy with the mana is reduce mana cost of skills, but basically you want a lot of crit multi and a lot of life. And for the Watcher's Eye, I am using a critical strike chance while affected by hatred just to help me get crit capped. Okay, so if, now this is a big if, this is like something optional that you can do that is cheaper. If you don't want to buy this Watcher's Eye or something like that, and you don't have the money for this chest to make it, you can very well use a Doppelganger's Guise. What this does, basically, it gives you this new skill, Unhinge. When you use it, you gain Insanity. And when you do, what does it say? Critical strike chance while insane. This gives you a huge crit strike boost when you're insane. But it's very limited and doesn't have life and stuff like that. It's a good placeholder, but until you get the money to buy the Watcher's Eye and stuff like that, or the chest piece, okay? Okay, so that is the skill tree, the items, the flask. What am I missing? Am I missing something? Alright, let's get into the POB. Okay, so here we have the POB for this build, right? Oh, I forgot to mention, I have an intuitive leap just to save some points, and I'm pathing down here to Essence Tap to get some mana sustain. Okay, so let's hop into the POB. The main skill we are using is obviously, like I said, Tornado Shot. As you can see here, I don't have a lot of crit because I have no configurations put. So let's see how much crit I actually have. Power charges? Yes, we have power charges. Frenzy charges? Yes, we have frenzy charges. Endurance energies? No, we don't. Tailwind? Yes. Elusive? Yes, from the boots. Are you on consecrated ground? Sometimes from the flask. What else? Is the enemy chilled? Yes, he is. Is the enemy shocked? No, he's not. Is the enemy unnerved? Yes, from the thing, from the cluster jewel. Is the enemy on consecrated ground? Yes. Okay, Cyrus. Now keep in mind this is level 89. I'm not doing Cyrus 8 or 9 at level 89. Okay, this is still work in progress. Okay, cold exposure and slipstream active. Sometimes, whatever. So, as you can see, I'm still like not crit cap, but when I start using my flasks, I'm 99.8 crit cap, which is pretty good. I'm still working, so I said like build in progress. I'm not 100%. So yeah, we still got room for improvements. I need to get crit cap and accuracy cap, but that can be done like this, and then I am crit cap. But I need one more level for that, or increase my quality from the bow. Okay, so how is our damage looking? Let's see. Ice Spear, second form, all projectiles, correct. So 1.8 million. It's not great. But like I said before, cast on crit alternates between Eye of Winter, Ice Spear, Eye of Winter, Ice Spear, okay? So let me show you something here, and we're gonna go to Tornado Shot, including full DPS. And if we just remove Eye of Winter, you're like 3.7 million. Right, because it fires a lot more ice spears. So for bosses, you could remove you can remove Eye of Winter because basically it doesn't do much, so you can just be a pure ice spear. But for mapping, you want to use Eye of Winter or Freezing Pulse, one of these two skills. And of course you can replace this with something like the Call, and then you're like 5 million. There's a lot of improvements to be done to this build, okay? Cool. And what else we got? So Hydrosphere here, like there's nothing to explain more than I already did, I think. If you have any questions or any doubts, or you're like still thinking about making the build and like what can you like cheap out on, make sure to leave a comment in the comment section below. Please consider subscribing. I really would appreciate it. And if we could get 1000 subs, it would be amazing. I also stream on twitch.tv/Dante00151. Please feel free to drop by, say hello, toss me a follow. That would make my day. And we also have a little community on the Discord. Exclamation mark Discord. I'm so used to Twitch chat. The Discord link is going to be in the description. Feel free to drop by, say hi, post your POB, stuff like that, ask some questions, have a chat, post some memes, whatever. Again, I hope you found this interesting. I hope you found this approach to the nerfs and stuff like that, like how we cope with mana. Also interesting, and I hope to see you again next time. Make sure to sub and like the video, toss a comment, and I thank you very much for watching.